All right, so I'm not doing an intro in this one. I actually wanted to get a little bit serious. As all you guys know, there's a big outbreak right now of COVID-19, coronavirus. A lot of people know it as. I wanted to talk a little bit about it because I think there's a lot of information that's out there that might not be accurate, or we don't really understand the severity of it and things like that. I know there's been a lot of jokes about it and in the media. Well, not so much the media, but just like social media more so, and things of that nature. But I was watching this TED Talks from this lady. Her name's Alanna, and forgive me for mispronouncing this last name, Shaikh, Shaikh. If you guys want to check her out, Alanna Shaikh. She's not a nurse or anything like that, but she works for the global health. And in this TED Talk, she was pretty much just talking about the coronavirus. What she was saying was she was just kind of breaking down what it was. So I kind of wanted to go over that with you guys, just in case you guys are misinformed. And I know I didn't fully understand what it was either. I needed to do some research. So, here you guys go. So she started off with, obviously, what is a coronavirus? The coronavirus is a respiratory virus that attacks the lungs. So there's no hemorrhage. You don't bleed out of the eyes. You don't do any of that kind of thing. It just goes straight for your lungs. It could start anywhere from like a dry cough and make its way, like a dry cough fever, and make its way all the way up to fatal pneumonia. It uses RNA instead of DNA. And the spikes that you see, everything that's been in the pictures, it's been in a circle with the spikes on the outside. Now, spikes on the outside of the surface of the virus, that's how it makes its way to the cells. And the spikes themselves are actually called corona, and that's where the coronavirus name comes from, because of those spikes on the outside. There's been 6 previous cases of it in the world. There was 6 up until December 2019, which coronavirus made it the 7th. That's why they call it like a novelty virus, because there's only been so little of them. But some of the previous ones, I'm sure there's been a lot of you that have heard about it, but like SARS and MERS, which SARS is the severe acute respiratory syndrome, and MERS was the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. Those were all coronaviruses. I know there's like memes and stuff going out on social media that show those things for like presidential elections. There's always something and things like that. So those two are coronaviruses. It's made it hard to track. And the reason why there's no really quarantine, or they haven't been able to get a grip on it, or been able to track it, is because the symptoms are very small. Most people that get coronavirus, it's just a small symptom. It's not something that warrants calling your doctor or going to the hospital for. And because they're not going to the hospital and we're not making that call, that's why it hasn't been caught. A lot of us can actually have it and not even know it. Because again, it starts with something so small. But the good news is it doesn't really affect children. Children have something in them that really helps them fight this virus off, which is great, because out of all people, this children are the ones that need it. Now, obviously, the elderly and people with underlying health issues, those are the ones that it really attacks, and has been attacking. But now it's a pandemic, it's an epidemic, it's a state of emergency here in our state. They have officially closed down the schools. I had to cancel practice on my t-ball, and the league is still kind of back and forth what they want to do. The soccer league that I'm a part of, they have officially suspended games until at least 30 days. So everything right now seems to be 30 days. And the school system has made it 3 weeks. So not quite there, but it raises the questions of things like how is this going to affect families? How is this affecting kids? How is this affecting parents? President Trump said that we would not, they would put something in place to try to help out small businesses and things like that. And non-state jobs can't make it mandatory for you to go in, and they cannot affect your job. But, that's not the real world. We like to believe that, but that's not how it is. A lot of small businesses out there rely on employees being there every day, and them not showing up, aligned with certain contracts with customers doesn't really, voids that contract in a sense. So it's going to be a lot of things that are going to be affected by this, business-wise, and families and schools and everything like that. But, I just want to give basic knowledge of what it is. So I'm going to continue. The coronavirus is zoonotic, which means that it's transferred from animals to humans. And COVID-19, which is the coronavirus, was also, well, that one can also be transferred from person to person. So they say that, well, this lady that, says that she believes it just skipped the, animal to animal transfer and went straight to animal to human. And because humans can contract it and can spread it amongst other humans, it allows it to stay, or stick around longer, and it reaches greater distances because we travel and we go and make contact with each other, day in and day out. And that's the reason why it's so hard to get rid of, because it's transmitted by animals. It's really hard to pinpoint it, and right now they haven't pinpointed exactly which animal or what kind of animal it's come from. And so she stated in her TED Talks that those are signs of being in the middle of the outbreak, not necessarily containing it, but being in I guess not panic mode, but trying to figure out like how to contain it and things like that. So because they don't necessarily know where it came from, that's it's hard for them to really determine what their next step is. Now, it was found that it was transferred to the first human in Wuhan, China, at an animal market. So they know that much. That's how they know that it came from China. But more so in Europe is where they haven't really done much containment or quarantine, and they, obviously they might not have the same things in place as America does, but it's made it hard for them because they haven't done a good job, and a lot of people pointed the finger at Europe and Asia, and that's why it's spread all around the world. And like Italy, mainly, the average age there is 47 years old, so there's a reason why they're being affected more than anyone. Our hearts and prayers go out to the people of Italy. Everyone in the world right now is in need of prayer. So just kind of keep that in mind, keep everybody in mind, and know that anyone can be going through this right now, and we're not untouchable. That's the crazy part about it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's things like this, I think, that kind of draw us closer as mankind and humans, but how quick we are to forget, you know what I mean? So I don't know how long this is going to be around. Now, she did mention this is going to get worse before it gets better. Or the facts that they have is that it hospitalizes 20% of the people who contract it. So there's no arguing that those are facts. 20% of people who contract it are going to be hospitalized. Now, if that 20% is strictly in America, they said that the hospitals won't be able to do that. And then she starts talking, like, think about like these other, like, third world countries, and think about our neighbors like Mexico, like what it can do to their economy and how it can affect their people and things like that. It's crazy. Like, this is a lot more serious than it's being played out to be. Maybe now so it's gotten the attention, but there was like a lot of jokes, in sports and stuff. And I'm sure you guys saw like the Gobert with the Utah Jazz center from Utah Jazz, his interview where he was joking and he touched all the microphones and the Zoom recorders and things like that, and jokingly, and then finds out that he has contracted it. And not only him, but he passed it to Spider Mitchell, his own teammate. You know what I'm saying? So like, he's very apologetic. He's apologized for endangering people, for not knowing that he had it, which it's not his fault, right? But I'm saying like we were at a point where we're joking, take this human being joking. Days later finds out he has it, and it's like, whoa. And it's only because we think it can't happen to us. But he's not the only athlete. There's been Daniel Rugani and Mikel Arteta, or Arteta, whatever you want to say, but it is in soccer. They've contracted it. Obviously, Rudy Gobert and Spider Mitchell in basketball have contracted it so serious that the NBA, the XFL, the NFL, the NCAA basketball, we'll get to that in a minute, MLS, NHL, have all either canceled or postponed their seasons. Now, the NFL is out of season. They're still looking to go forward with the draft, but the NFL teams are not allowed to travel, like to scout and do anything like that. They've made that call, and a lot of it's come from team owners themselves, but I'm sure the NFL is involved in that. The XFL, which has been doing great on their numbers, 6 weeks in, has to cancel their season. Now they have to look forward to next season, short-lived, hoping that it comes back and it sticks around. That got canceled. MLS just postponed it another month. NHL has postponed it as well. And college basketball might not have a tournament. The way it's looking right now, it looks like they've completely canceled the tournament, which would be the first time there's no basketball tournament since 1939. So think about that. This is how serious it is that they don't want to hold a lot of these tournaments, the conference tournaments have been canceled as well. You know, they try to do it where they played behind closed doors because soccer did that. And I think they were following that example where they had some of the Champions League just recently. The Atlanta and Valencia game was played in Spain behind closed doors. There's no fans there. And I think they tried that, but because it's just spreading at a crazy rate, that they just decided to go ahead and just cancel or postpone these seasons. And it's on all levels. Like I mentioned, it's in my league, it's in my T-ball league. And so it's just crazy how something can change so quickly from jokes to this. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a reporter that was reporting in Mexico, went for the Champions League, and he contracted the virus. That's how serious it is. Like, and viral. You know, who knows what he was doing, who he was touching, what, but I'm saying how viral it is. You know, this lady says that wash your hands. If you already wash your hands, wash them more. She says, get in a habit of washing your hands. Her best advice was if you go into a building, wash them before and after. Meetings before and after. Try not to shake hands with nobody. Try not to make contact with nobody. Like things like that. Obviously, you got to think of you first, especially if you're a father, a mother, grandmother. You know, if somebody looks up to you, or you're in care of someone, or someone's in the care of you, I'm sorry, you need to make sure that you're healthy. You know, me and my lady were talking about it, like maybe we shouldn't travel, like maybe we shouldn't go places together, like the grocery store and things like that. So that way, if one of us does end up contracting it, at least there's another person that can take care of the kids without any worry. You know, she says, well, you know, if I get it, then you're going to get it if I come back. But, you know, all we can do is kind of prepare. Sounds stupid, you know what I'm saying? But what if that works? So that's something we talked about doing, is just have a plan in place, because the way it's looking, we don't know that this isn't going anywhere anytime soon. They haven't found a cure for it. Typically with these things, they need to know where it started to find a cure. They don't know that. So you need to understand that. I can't stress that enough. In order for them to move forward with the cure, they have to first know where it came from, where it originated from. They know the place, they know the location, but they don't know from what species of animal. And that's the scary part. It's spread by contacts, not airborne. So for people who aren't aware of that, it's not airborne, but it's crazy, man. Like we've had other things like this, like Zika, Ebola, which Ebola in Congo, I believe it was, they just released, I think it was either at the beginning of this year or the end of last year, they just released their last Ebola patient. Think about that. For us, it's no big deal, but for these smaller market places, I say market because I have that sports mentality, but like places that don't really have a healthcare as a benefit for funds or whatever the case may be. This lady, Alanna, said that they did so good. The African doctor just did so good in finding this and catching this. They just didn't have the finances and the proper system in order to contain it. But places like that were still being affected by something we forgot about back in, I think, 2016. You know, that was the last virus they said, or outbreak that happened during the presidential election. It could have been 2014. I think that's when it started. But just stay informed. There's plenty of websites out there that give you information. The crisis, what is it? I know it's the CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Go to their website, and it's got like a lot of things on how to prevent it. You know, we don't need to necessarily go into the hospitals quite yet. I could be wrong on that. It could be different where you're from, but I read a couple of things that say you can phone your doctor, let them know of your symptoms, and then they can kind of guide you from there. There was a couple that one of the first couples that contracted it here in our state that quarantined themselves. Thank goodness they had the mind to do that. You know what I mean? Like they were aware of their travels and knew they're traveling at their own risk. And so they quarantined themselves to be safe, and they ended up contracting it, but they didn't make contact with nobody. So good for them to be mindful of things like that. But yeah, man, it's insane. You know, it's insane how much this is really affecting everybody. I mean, fatal pneumonia, think about that. You can have a little cough and then it turns into fatal pneumonia. attacks your cells. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, there's kind of a brief little thing for you guys. Information that maybe you didn't have or you weren't aware of. A lot of false information, flying out there. But that's what the coronavirus is, and that's where we sit as of right now. I'll keep you posted as things go on. I'll also keep you posted on what's going on with these sports. A couple of sports I did not mention, actually, let me bring these up, is the WWE and the UFC. Those two are going forward business as usual. They have the Brasilia event is being performed, or is going to be done behind closed doors with no fans. The event in Columbus is being moved to Las Vegas. So that's what the UFC is doing. AEW, they were supposed to have a show, I believe, somewhere up north, maybe New York or somewhere up there. They have moved that show to Jacksonville, Florida, which is their home base. WWE right now is asking the state of Florida, state of Florida officials to, it sounds like almost put out a statewide memo, like minimize your contact with anybody, because they're still trying to get out there. They say they care about their athletes, but after Owen Hart died, next day, business as usual. That's their motto. The show must go on. After 9/11, business as usual. The show went on. That's their motto. So, there's talks back and forth that they're going to cancel. There's plenty of sites for that. I'm not an everyday, twice a day kind of news podcast. So I'm sure you guys will find that out. But as of right now, those are the two that I know of that are going on business as usual. I haven't read that anyone else is going to continue or not, or halt operations. But that's where we sit right now. Kudos to these organizations that are putting the safety of everybody before, money. So keep an eye on that, and stay safe out there, guys.